The real question isn't whether you're doing recovery right, it's whose recovery you're trying to live. You walk into a room, a meeting, a group, a treatment center, and suddenly you're handed a plan. What to do at 30 days, what to feel at 90 days. And if your experience doesn't match, you don't question the plan, you question yourself. I see this every day. Someone hits 90 days, and instead of feeling proud, they feel broken. Not because they're failing, but because their recovery doesn't look like the recovery. Someone else's story becomes a measuring stick. Their timeline becomes your deadline. It's the person in your sober living house who seems to have it all figured out while you're still trying to get out of bed. The comparison starts the moment you enter recovery. And if you don't catch it, it will quietly convince you that you're doing it wrong. Here's the truth. Your addiction wasn't like anyone else's. So why would your recovery be? Different reasons, different brain chemistry, different trauma, different things you were numbing, even the same substance. Your relationship to it was shaped by a life only you've lived. So when someone hands you a one-size-fits-all solution and says, this is how it works, that's not recovery science. That's recovery culture. Two very different things. But here's where it gets dangerous. Comparison doesn't just hurt your feelings. It can derail your recovery. When you measure yourself against someone else, two things happen. One, you ignore what's working for you. Maybe meetings aren't your thing, but running is. Maybe you don't connect with the steps, but trauma therapy is saving your life. Those aren't deficits, they're data. And two, and this is the one that breaks people, you start hiding. You stop sharing because your story doesn't sound like the others. You stop reaching out because you don't want to admit that you're struggling with something that looks easy for everyone else. And isolation. In recovery, isolation is a loaded gun. The comparison trap doesn't just hurt your feelings. It cuts you off from the one thing that keeps people alive. Connection. I want to pause here. If this is landing for you, if you felt this, drop a comment below and just say, I'm walking my own path. It sounds simple, but naming it out loud matters. It reminds you and everyone else reading that this is real. So how do you build recovery that actually fits you? Start with the question nobody asks. Instead of, am I doing this right? Ask yourself, is this working for me? Not for the guy with 5 years. Not what the book says. Not what your family expects. Is this working for me? And if the answer is no, that's not failure. That's information. Recovery isn't a checklist. It's not a program you complete. It's a life you build. And no one can tell you what that life should look like because no one else has to live it. The people who make it decades, they're not the ones who followed the plan perfectly. They're the ones who figured out what worked for them and had the courage to do it, even when it looked different from everyone else. So if you're sitting there right now, comparing your 60 to someone's 6 years, that voice telling you you're behind, you're broken, you're not doing this right, it's not the truth. It's the comparison trap. The only way out is to look at your path, your progress, your recovery, and own it. This isn't about getting sober the right way. It's about getting sober your way. The one thing that keeps you alive. The one that builds your life back. Everything else, that's just someone else's map. And you're not walking their road.